September 14th MetroPlan meeting. I'd like to remind everyone to please silence all electronic devices. In addition, something I just did to show you what not to do, speak into the mic when you're speaking. And so that way our folks online and everyone in the room can hear us. I want to remind everyone we have two opportunities for public comment, and the beginning will be for action items, at the end in the general nature. So if anyone wants or wishes to have a public comment, please make sure you do your speaker card. And again, we'll have that opportunity both online and in person. At this time, I want to ask Commissioner Tony Ortiz to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Ortiz, and thank you for your service, as always. I want to start off and give an update on the MPOAC meeting. We met July 27th through the 28th in Gainesville at the FDOT Materials Office. The afternoon of the 27th was an executive committee meeting that I attended. The 28th was a joint meeting of the governing board and the executive directors, which was quite interesting. We were a full room that day. And it was fascinating to see all of the FDOT's done in the way of research and testing of new and innovative ways to deliver transportation infrastructure. Following the tour, we approved the minutes of the April 28th, 2022 meeting. We received a presentation on the revenue forecast for the next round of MPO transportation plans. We had a discussion on the legislative intent of the MPOAC, followed by a discussion on the role and responsibilities of the executive director and how that position can best serve the needs of the state's 27 MPOs. The next meeting is scheduled for October 27th here in Orlando. I also had the pleasure of attending the TDLCB, the Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board, that met on August 11th. Mayor Bates, that board, chairs that board, and she has a report for us this morning. Mayor Bates, you are recognized.
Thank you. Did that work? Yeah. Okay. Modern technology. The quarterly TDLCB meeting was held on Thursday, August 11th. Commissioner Fisher and I were unable to attend the meeting due to a Florida League of Cities meeting. I'd like to say thank you to Commissioner Uribe for always being willing to step in when needed. Thank you again. Ms. Marilyn Baldwin, chairwoman of the Quality Assurance Task Force meeting, provided a report from their meeting. The minutes of the May 2022 meeting were approved. The only scheduled presentation was an update from Access Links' mobility services. The next TDLCB meeting is November 10th, 2022. This is the annual public meeting. We will be joined by the Executive Director of the Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged, Mr. David Darm, who will be providing some keynote remarks. This concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Bates, and thank you for your service on the board. I want to move on to the Florida Commission for the Transportation Disadvantaged Annual Training Workshop. The Commission for the Transportation Disadvantaged Workshop was held on August 30th through the 31st. This workshop provides a great opportunity to learn about the latest in transportation management practices, technology, and equipment to better assist the transportation disadvantaged community. It also provides an opportunity for those attending to network with their peers. This is a passion of mine, and I want to thank the MetroPlan board for allowing me to be a part of this. I would be remiss if also I didn't recognize Miss Virginia. We were participating in a breakout session, which she handled so steadfast and was quite engaging. But I really have to take a moment to recognize Gary and your leadership in Virginia, because every time we show up at these events, it's like MetroPlan Orlando is here and everyone else is trying to learn from us. And that is not, this is by the leadership and by Virginia, who do an incredible, incredible job. I mean, these guys are famous everywhere we go. And I don't think that we tell you thank you enough for what you do for us. So the Florida Planning Association meeting took place, and I also moderated a session last Friday at the Florida Planning Association meeting on women and bicycling. It was a great meeting because we had a lot of planners discuss changes that are making around statewide to look at that and recognize it. And last but not least, the OIA tour, Miss Lisa, Carson Good, and Kevin Tebow, I should know that name, that's my husband's name, hosted us for a 2.5 hour
You guys are married?
a 2.5 hour tour. I want to thank Carson for the arranging of the tour for me and some of the MetroPlan staff that were not able to attend the tour back in May. If you guys did not get a chance to visit the terminal opening, wow, but really, it's amazing. And Carson, your leadership on the board, and Kevin Tebow has been an enormous asset, and we had the pleasure of seeing Phil Brown there over the weekend. I don't know if you wanted to say a word or two on that. Your speaker.
It's been 10 years in the making. I can't take any credit for 90% of it. There's been a lot of people and really generations of staff and leadership that went into it. It's going to open up. It's been really hard getting everything done. Like I was telling Commissioner or Chairman Delary, one of my friend's daughter works in a production company on Broadway, and she said, when you see these beautiful, flawless plays, you have no idea the mistakes that are happening on stage, and you have no idea the chaos that's going on and panic behind the scenes. So our guys have been great. A lot of this is due to the help and leadership of Mayor Demings, he came on the board about the same time I did, 3.5 years ago or so, through a lot of stressful times, and he's also been great help on all of this. So we appreciate it. Anybody that didn't get a tour yet because you couldn't make it, send an email to me. I'm sure Mayor Deming's office would be glad to do the same thing. After the security swept the building on Monday, couldn't have any construction people in it, nobody looking for nefarious things. We got a clean bill of health, then it got locked down. So the only way you can get there if you don't have a ticket on those airlines is we got to clear you and get you through a tour at this point. But I don't know, Mayor Demings, what do you have to say? You're pretty excited.
Expected to have as many as 10 million passengers going through Terminal C alone. You know, our airport pre-pandemic had over 50 million passengers on an annual basis. So all indications are it will continue. You know, international travel is coming back, and domestic travel is still very good. We're number 7 in the world, and so that's pretty good for the Metro Orlando area.
So like I said, it like the mayor said, it allows a huge capacity, which allows a lot more direct flights coming in and out of Orlando. It allows higher paying job companies to come here because they can access the world. It makes it easier for us to go wherever we want to do. I keep getting asked for direct flights to these ski resorts and places, but it takes the whole community to do this. This has been for 50 years a community push. I'm just honored to be. My job is to get out in front of a moving train and pretend I'm leading it. As somebody said. But anyway, thanks for everybody coming. If you haven't had a tour, if you haven't seen it in 4 months, it's pretty amazing. There's still work to do. It's the foundation of the next level. But anyway, what we will need to do is keep improving the transportation system, the regional transportation systems that go in and out of the airport. We got 25,000 employees. We'll hire thousands more. People got to get in. The buses got to get faster and moving better. Transportation systems got to keep pushing. It's going to be like downtown Orlando in a few years, and I know Mayor Demings is working on some plans for this as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Carson. At this time, I want to recognize Mr. Gary Hutman with the Executive Director's announcements. Gary, you're recognized.
Good morning, Chairwoman Uribe and board members. This morning, we want to start by remembering 2 of our colleagues who have passed away recently since our last meeting. Jim Harrison, who we all knew, passed away on August 12th. And former Kissimmee Mayor Jim Swan passed away over the weekend. I received word of that first thing Monday morning. So I just thought it was appropriate that we recognize them and their contributions to our work this morning. So, board alternates, we have some alternates with us, 3 of them actually. Commissioner Sheehan is here joining us remotely, representing the city of Orlando in place of Mayor Dyer. Commissioner Wilson is here, representing Orange County in place of Commissioner Siplin. And Commissioner Castano is here representing the city of Kissimmee in place of Commissioner Fisher. I will also note that Commissioner Constantine is out of town, but wanted to join us remotely, so he may be online as well. So thank you all for joining us. I was anticipating a special guest this morning. I haven't seen her, though. We have a new FHWA liaison. The one that we had for a number of years, Teresa Parker, was recently promoted and moved to a position in South Carolina. So her replacement is a lady by the name of Jean Parlow. And Jean is familiar with our region. She spent some time working for Volusia County and for DOT District 5, and actually for the River to Sea TPO in Volusia County as well. But she will now be our liaison, and if she makes it in this morning, she was planning to stay after the board meeting and spend a little bit of time getting acquainted with the staff members that she doesn't already know. Last month, I reported on the Safe Streets for All grant application and was so pleased that we had a number of partners joining us on that, virtually everyone in the region. So we're very pleased with that. Our application will be submitted today. They are due to be submitted by the end of the day tomorrow. And just a reminder, this is a $1 billion per year funding opportunity for planning grants for Vision Zero action plans. We are submitting a grant roughly of about $3 million is our request. So we're hopeful that it will receive favorable consideration. I want to say a few things about our regional TSMO program. You've heard about this in the past, but Eric Hill has presented this to the board on occasion. This is something that we started several years ago, and we continue to be the champions on it. 2 years ago, we were awarded a STIC grant through the DOT to help to continue funding the effort that we're putting into it. One of the tasks that was associated with that grant was to have a peer exchange of similar operations around the country. And that peer exchange occurred yesterday. It was done remotely. But the purpose was to discuss the value and the potential of establishing a more formal MPO-centered kind of regional approach to how we manage transportation, the operations side and of transportation. To advance TSMO governance and collaboration across the Central Florida region. And this stretches all the way from Daytona Beach over to Tampa. So throughout the entire I-4 corridor. So in addition to 8 of the state's 27 MPOs, there are 8 MPOs participating in this. We also had participation from DOT, from FHWA, and from the 2 expressway authorities that are in the corridor, the Central Florida Expressway Authority and the Tampa Hillsborough Expressway Authority. And we also had TSMO agencies from 5 states and as well as from Canada joining in on that. The peer exchange provided an opportunity for the directors to engage in a discussion on the potential framework to advance that further. And we reached consensus on conducting a strategic plan, TSMO strategic plan for Central Florida. Eric will be participating on that, as well as the directors from each of the, at least one director from each of the DOT districts throughout the corridor. So we're looking forward to that, and you'll be hearing more about that as time goes on. Best Foot Forward had an enforcement since our last board meeting on August 23rd and 24th. 9 agencies participated in that. They enforced at 14 crosswalks. a total of 161 citations and warnings were given, and of those, 75 were the citations. So still plugging away at trying to get people to slow down and to acknowledge pedestrians. Commissioner Uribe and I met with District 5 Secretary Tyler on August 29th to discuss our next round of priority projects. This is a practice that DOT started last year under Secretary Perdue, and it proved to be a good time. And it's something that we'll do each year about this time as we close out the calendar year. I want to extend congratulations to those incumbents that successfully were reelected. And those include that are on our board: Mayor Demings, County Commissioner Moore, Seminole County Commissioner Zembauer, and Commissioner Grieve from Osceola County. So congratulations to all of you for getting it done and getting it done early. And then I want to also congratulate Leilani from our staff, who was recently installed to the Board of Directors of the Florida Public Relations Association. That occurred on August 23rd, so congratulations to Leilani. And then Commissioner Uribe made some comments in her remarks about the Florida Commission for the Transportation Disadvantaged event that was here on August 29th through the 31st. What she did not mention to you is that at the awards dinner on the 31st, she was recognized as the elected official of the year by the Florida Commission for the Transportation Disadvantaged. And that was done. That was done for her work with the transportation disadvantaged community, as well as her success on their behalf during the 2022 legislative session. It was a good evening and a pleasure to share in that honor with her. So congratulations, Commissioner. Other staff news: MetroPlan Orlando's 2021 Regional Transportation Survey recently won a Golden Image Award and that is the best in category at the Florida Public Relations Association's Golden Image Awards. That's a statewide competition that was held on August 9th. And then finally, we have two new staff members that I'd like to introduce. First is Jason Sartorio. If Jason would just stand, please. Jason joined us on August 1st and comes to us from the private sector. And second, we have Slade Downs. And Slade started with us on August 8th. And Slade comes to us with MPO experience. He was previously with the Sarasota Manatee MPO. So I look forward to having them with us and their contributions to our work. And that completes my announcements.
All right, that was a lot of announcements.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to the FDOT report. Unfortunately, Secretary Tyler had to meet with Secretary Perdue today, so he kind of has to show up for work. But we are very lucky to have Ms. Lorraine Bobo. Ms. Bobo, you are recognized.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here this morning. And Secretary Tyler and Director Adkins send their apologies for not being able to make it. District 5 is actually hosting the executive team for the whole state this week. And so all the district secretaries are there, and I'll be back there this afternoon to showcase some things that we're doing in District 5, so they apologize for not being here. I wanted to share that we recently opened 5 R-cuts on State Road 535 in Orange County, and R-cuts are, I should have brought a picture with me today, but imagine the vehicles can only make lefts at these intersections, and the pedestrians and people walking and biking cross diagonally. So they're able to cross without anybody interacting with them when they cross. So it's a much safer kind of intersection, allowing everybody to keep moving. And we opened 5 along the corridor. So you're going to start seeing those more and more around the district and the state, for that matter. It's a really great intersection. I'd like to congratulate the City of Altamont Springs for adopting Vision Zero last Wednesday night. They joined City of Orlando, Osceola County, and Orange County as adopting in the MetroPlan area. Happens to be also where I live, so I was very excited to see that as well. So congratulations, Mayor Bates. Next week is Rail Safety Week, so we will be doing quite a bit of media outreach and things like that, just telling people never stop on the tracks. If you do find yourself on the tracks, just push through those gates, get off the tracks, and always stop as well, for those gates. And if the gates aren't down, please stop if there's a signal ahead or something like that, because you don't want to get stuck. It's amazing how many people still stop on them. And next month is Pedestrian Awareness Month, so we'll be doing quite a few events, just bringing more awareness to people that are walking and people that are biking. There's quite a few events also planned during Mobility Week, which is towards the end of October. I know that MetroPlan participates in a lot of those events, but a lot of really great awareness that's going to be coming over the next month. So thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Bobo. Any questions or comments for Ms. Bobo today? Okay, seeing none, we are going to move forward on roll call and confirmation of a quorum. Ms. Smith, you are recognized.
Thank you. Mayor Bates,
Here.
Bonilla, Commissioner Constantine,
Here.
Commissioner Delary,
Here.
Mayor Demmings,
Here.
Commissioner Sheehan for Mayor Dyer,
Here.
Commissioner Castano for Commissioner Fisher,
Here.
Commissioner Gomez Cordero,
Here.
Mr. Good, Mr. Green, Commissioner Grebe, Commissioner Janer,
Here.
Commissioner Moore,
Here.
Mayor Nelson,
Here.
Commissioner Ortiz,
Right here.
Commissioner Wilson for Ziplin,
Here.
Councilmember Trace,
Here.
Commissioner Uribe,
Here.
Woodruff, Commissioner Zembauer. That concludes the roll call, and we do have a quorum.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ms. Smith. We're going to move on to the agenda review. Mr. Huntman, you have the
Yes,
floor.
Yeah, good morning again. We do have some comments on the agenda. We're doing things just slightly differently this morning with one of the action items. Action item 10C is going to include a DOT presentation. You may recall a presentation from them last year on this same project. It has to do with the Beyond the Ultimate project. And the amendment last year was to program some stimulus funds to it. And we were not able at that time to program the FY23 funds, so that's part of it. But they also want to discuss a change in the scope. So I just wanted to alert you to that it will include a DOT presentation under 10C. Keith Caskey will be handling all three of the amendments, and each will require a roll call, a separate roll call vote. And Commissioner, if you'd like, once Keith comes up, he can just go from one right to another, okay? After the roll call vote, yeah, okay. There are no other changes then.
All right, thank you for that. We're now going to move on to committee reports, starting with the Municipal Advisory Committee. Councilmember Keith Trace, you're recognized. Thank you for being here.
All right, thank you, and good morning, everyone. The Municipal Advisory Committee met on September 7th here in the boardroom. We had 4 action items on our agenda. The MAC approved our July 2022 meeting minutes, and we heard the amendment presentations from MetroPlan Orlando and DOT staff regarding the TIP amendments that will be coming forward today, and it received unanimous approval from the MAC. Then we received 3 informational presentations. We learned about FDOT's ongoing functional classification and urban area boundary update process, which is a mouthful. And then we heard updates on the Sunrail transition and Link's recently completed transit development plan. The MAC group does not meet in October, and our next meeting is November 3rd. And that completes my report. Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments for Councilmember Trace, either in the room or online? Okay, seeing none, we are going to move on to the Community Advisory Committee. Mr. Jeffrey Campbell, you're recognized.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. The Community Advisory Committee met on August 24th. The CAC members were presented with 3 action items, and all of which are on the agenda for today. On the first item, members recommended ratification of the emergency FDOT amendment to the TIP, or Transportation Improvement Plan. On the second item, members also recommended approval for the FDOT roll forward amendment. However, on the third item, the proposed FDOT amendment involving several sections of I-4, CAC members had multiple questions. Very passionate group. These questions range from things like cost to funding to how portions of the project might align with other future improvements like commuter, for example. Really, it was just a matter of members not totally being satisfied with the information as it had been presented. However, the presenters promised to return and give us additional information in the near future. Members voted 11 of 14 against recommending approval of the amendment at that particular time. Now, following our August 24th meeting, other advisory committees have all heard this presentation and, according to the packets, have all voted in favor of it. Maybe, just maybe, the CAC helped to kind of prep the group for the presentation coming forward. I'd just like to add that the presenters were as professional as they can be, and they constantly do a great job. So I just want to say thank you again to them. In addition, CAC members saw presentations from FDOT concerning functional classification of roadways and from WSP Consultants on the transition of management of Sunrail. We also had a presentation from Links on the latest transit development plan. In each case, CAC members reiterated their desires for more multimodal transportation systems with robust transit options. The next CAC meeting is October 26th, and Madam Chair, this concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. We had heard about your meeting, so.
Passionate group.
Are there any questions or comments for Mr. Campbell at this time, either in the room or online? Okay, seeing none, thank you for the update. We're going to move on to the Technical Advisory Committee. Ms. Pullum, you are recognized.
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman, and members of the board. The Technical Advisory Committee met on August 26th. We recommended approval of the requests by FDOT to amend the TIP to include ratification of the board chairwoman's approval of an emergency TIP amendment to increase funding for a project on State Road 436 in Altamont Springs, the FDOT District 5 and Sunrail roll forward amendments to the TIP, changes in funding and scope for several projects on I-4 related to the beyond the ultimate project. We also had a lot of discussion on it, but we did approve it. We heard presentations on FDOT's functional classification and urban boundary update process, the status of the Sunrail transition plan, Lynx's transit development plan also. Our next meeting will be on October 28th. That concludes my report, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you, Ms. Pullum. Do we have any questions or comments in the room or online? Okay, seeing or hearing none, we're going to move on to the TSMO, Transportation System Management and Operations Committee. Mr. Centerins, you're recognized.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chairwoman and all members of the board. The TSMO Advisory Committee, we met back on August 26th, and we had 4 action items for approval. First were the minutes of the June 24th TSMO meeting. We also had the emergency FDOT amendment to fiscal year 22-23 through 26-27 TIP for construction cost increases to improvements on State Road 436 from North Lake Boulevard and Cranes Roost Boulevard to Boston Avenue. We also had approval of FDOT amendment to fiscal year 22-23, 26-27 TIP to include projects that had funds that rolled forward from the previous 21-22 through 22-23. And lastly, the FDOT amendment to fiscal year 22-23 through 26-27 TIP for changes to the scope and funding amounts for improvements to the segments of I-4 as printed in your agenda today. We had 2 presentations. The first one was by Mr. Stephen Davis, the TSMO Program Engineer for FDOT District 1, and he presented us with the use of signal timing for speed reduction. And lastly, Mr. Eric Hill from MetroPlan Orlando provided an update on the regional TSMO program. So we don't have a meeting scheduled for this month, but we have one scheduled for next month, October 28th at 8:30 a.m., and that concludes my report. Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments? Anything online? Hearing none, we are going to go ahead and move on. Now we're up to our public comments on action items. Ms. Smith, do we have any speaker cards?
I have not received any.
Okay, seeing none, we will have another opportunity at the end of the meeting for public comment on the general nature. I want to move forward to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move to approve consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Delary, and I think I heard a second from Commissioner Moore. Okay, we have a second from Commissioner Moore. We do need, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And it passes unanimously. Now we want to recognize Mr. Keith Caskey for our other action items. Just to give you guys a heads up, this will be 3 roll call votes, and we're going to try to get through them as quickly as we can. And they are in your agenda book. Thank you, Mr. Caskey.
Okay, good morning.
I'm sorry.
Madam Chair, before we do that, can we just make a motion to ratify the emergency amendment that you signed, item A? Do we need to
Oh.
do that?
This was an item that came up after the June, July committee and
Item
board
A,
meeting.
correct?
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to approve it.
Do you want to just explain it?
Sure,
We'll let, we're referring to other action items A, which is it's a simple one that Mr. Caskey's going to go ahead and just go through real quickly. So you feel
Yeah, this
comfortable
had to
with
be amended into the state TIP by an August 10th deadline after the committees and board had already met, just to keep the project on schedule. And so FDOT requested that this be processed on an emergency basis. So our board chairwoman signed the resolution based on our policy for processing emergency TIP amendments. And this includes adding about $3 million in funding for the resurfacing safety project on State Road 436 from North Lake Boulevard to Boston Avenue due to cost increases for the project. And, you all have the information on this in tab 2. And so, as mentioned earlier, we're just asking for your ratification of the amendment.
So this is a procedure move. I've already signed the document. So are there any questions or comments? I think we're good. Okay. Commissioner Delary?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, so we have a second from Commissioner Janer, a motion by Commissioner Delary. We're going to go ahead and let Ms. Smith do a roll call on action item A.
Bates? Aye. Constantine?
Aye.
Delary?
Yes.
Demmings?
Aye.
Sheehan?
Aye.
Castano?
Aye.
Gomez Cordero?
Aye.
Good? Green? Janer?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Nelson?
Yes.
Ortiz?
Yes.
Wilson?
Aye.
Trace?
Aye.
Uribe? The motion carried unanimously. I'm sorry, Mayor Woodruff, he walked in.
Aye.
Okay, next, we have our annual roll forward amendment. This includes projects that had funds that were originally programmed in fiscal year 2022 and last year's TIP, and those funds were not committed by the end of the fiscal year on June 30th, and so they just automatically roll forward to fiscal year 2023 and FDOT's new adopted 5-year work program that came out in July. So we have to amend our TIP to include these projects so it'll be consistent with the work program, and this does not affect the cost or schedule for these projects. And as many of you know, this is a routine procedure that we go through about this time every year. And the information on this is in tab 3 in your package. So again, unless there's any questions, we're asking for your approval of the amendment.
Motion to approve, Janer.
Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Carson Good. Just quickly, just procedurally, are there any questions or comments in the room or online? Okay, so we do have a motion by Commissioner Janer, a second by Mr. Good, and this is a roll call vote for Ms. Smith.
Bates? Aye. Constantine?
Yes.
Delary?
Yes.
Demmings?
Aye.
Sheehan?
Yes.
Castano?
Aye.
Gomez Cordero?
Yes.
Good? Green? Janer?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Nelson?
Yes.
Ortiz?
Yes.
Wilson?
Aye.
Trace?
Yes.
Uribe?
Yes?
Woodruff?
Yes.
Motion carried unanimous.
Okay, then the third amendment request includes some scoping and funding changes for several projects on I-4 that are linked to the Beyond the Ultimate project. This information's in tab 4. And as Gary mentioned, FDOT staff is going to give a presentation to provide more details on this project. And we have Catalina Chacon and Hada McGee from FDOT here today. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Catalina
to start off the presentation.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Here we are again. Thank you for having us here today. So again, I'm Catalina Chacon with FDOT, and I have Hada Magib here with me today, the FDOT project manager for the I-4 Beyond the Ultimate project. So we're here to present an update on the I-4 Beyond the Ultimate, as you will be seeing an amendment for the TIP for the projects that received stimulus funding to move forward to construction. Before we proceed with the presentation, we wanted to let you know that we are aware that you might have a lot of questions on how what we're doing today, what we're proposing today, fits in the overall bigger picture of I-4. It's a much-needed improvement that we need for Central Florida, and we want to let you know that we are trying to come here and answer as many questions as we have answers to, and we're actively working and looking at ways on how to move this project towards construction because it's very needed. As you all know, it's a very large project with a lot of stakeholders. It extends 20 miles to the north of Ultimate and 20 miles to the south of I-4 Ultimate. And we have been here in the past many times. We have presented scopes, updated cost estimates, updated schedules, and we're trying to articulate these changes as fast and often as we can. So with that in mind, we want to let you know that we're doing our best to be as transparent as we can and answer as many questions as we have the answers to. This is a critical quarter for you guys as well as for us. And like I mentioned, we're doing as much as we can to advance it and get the funding to move forward to construction. So we're here to give you an update on a piece of those projects that received ARPA funding, the stimulus funding to go to construction. And we feel very confident that by the end of this year or early next year, we will come back, give you an update on the overall bigger picture, tell you what we've been working on and what potential steps could be to move forward the I-4 Beyond the Ultimate. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Adam, and we're going to continue with the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Catalina. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present today on the I-4 projects. For the purpose of the TIP amendment, there are 4 project numbers you will see in there, but before we get into those projects, we would like to give a quick overview of the I-4 corridor. If you look at the screen, you can see the exhibit to the left. In the middle, in the gray color, that's I-4 Ultimate, recently opened to traffic, construction finish, open to traffic with the express lanes. North of I-4 Ultimate, we call that the I-4 Beyond the Ultimate North. South of I-4 Ultimate, we call that I-4 Beyond the Ultimate South. The Beyond the Ultimate North comprises of 2 segments, segments 3 and 4, Seminole and Volusia County. For I-4 Beyond the Ultimate South comprises of 4 segments, segments 2, 1A, 1B, and 5, Orange, Osceola, and extends into Polk County. The biggest challenge with those segments remain the funding. Some of these segments are hundreds of millions of dollars each. Some of the segments in the Beyond the Ultimate South are over $1 billion for construction for just one segment. So the funding remains a challenge. And as we continue to look for opportunities for funding for those big segments, we always look at how do we improve the I-4 corridor with the funding we have now. We look at improving the operational needs that's happening today on the road based on the funding that we have available. So with that, I'll go ahead to the next slide and zoom into I-4 Beyond the Ultimate South for the purpose of today's meeting. The projects you see on the screen are the projects that we have funding for. So those are coming, in the near future, some of them very soon. We'll start with the first project to the top right in the green color. That's the I-4 at Sand Lake Road Interchange Improvement Project. The project is in active procurement as we speak. We expect that to go to construction early next year. Next project we have is the 528 ramp widening. And I apologize, I'm going to use one of the screens here, but if you're traveling from the downtown direction down I-4 and you're taking that 528 ramp towards I-Drive or the airport direction, the current ramp is one lane, a single lane right now. What this project does is widen that ramp into 2 lanes. What we're seeing from the traffic projections is that the traffic will be backing up into the I-4 general use lanes. So adding that extra lane will help alleviate that problem. The project is in design as we speak. We expect that to go to construction summer of next year. The next project after that is the I-4 at Darrell Carter interchange. That's a new interchange that we are building. The project was awarded to construction a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago. So we expect that to go to construction very soon. And then the last project to the bottom right of the screen is the I-4 at 535 interchange. It's an interchange improvement project that currently advertised as a design build project. We expect that to go to construction summer of next year. That project specifically, we were able to take advantage of the ARPA funding, the stimulus funding that we received, as Catalina mentioned. Along with those projects, if you look at the left of the screen, that yellow bubble, we're also building a single lane express lane in the westbound direction along with those projects. I just click next. That single lane express lane is being built part of multiple projects. Just based on the location, it made more sense to go ahead and construct it on multiple pieces with the adjacent projects. So again, I apologize. I'm going to use the screen. So the small bubbles are that single lane express lane that's being built part of 3 projects. The first one will be built with the Sand Lake Road interchange. The second one will be built with the Darrell Carter interchange project. And then the last piece of that express lane will be built part of the 535 interchange. For the purpose of the TIP amendment, you'll see 4 project numbers, and those are what's on the screen. Basically, those 4 projects, there are two projects because they are goes with. So the first 2 projects, the I-4 at Sand Lake Road interchange with that piece of the express lane is 1 contract, and then the second project, the interchange with the piece of the express lane, that's a single contract as well. So we'll go ahead and go over those projects. Before we do that, I just want to point out that the I-4 at 535 interchange is taking advantage of the ARPA funding. The ARPA funding came with some constraints. So we had to have a fiscal year 23 project ready for construction to be able to take advantage of those ARPA fundings. Other constraints also, you have to have the project invoiced out by the end of 2026, which means you have to design, construct, and pay all the invoices out by the end of 2026. So with those constraints, we were able to go ahead and put together those projects to take advantage of the stimulus funding. So with that, I will go ahead and turn over to Catalina just to go over the scope for those projects.
Thanks, Adam. So I'm going to talk about the ones that start on the south. So we have the 448914-1, that's the I-4 at 535 interchange improvement, which goes with the 449771-1, which is the last portion of that single westbound express lane. So this aerial just shows the existing configuration of the interchange at I-4 and 535. Some of the key intersections include Vineland Avenue to the south, Hotel Plaza Boulevard to the north, and Palm Parkway further north. As we are preparing our roadway plans and RFP for our design build project, we are also validating traffic data and ensuring that this project will serve traffic demand well into the future. So 2 key movements that we have been realizing that need to be addressed ASAP include the I-4 westbound off-ramp to 535. Currently, that's another ramp that is under capacity, and we will be looking at traffic backing up into main line of I-4, which poses a safety concern. And then the other key movement is the 535 northbound. I'm going to use the screen back there behind Gary and Lorraine. Going up northbound, and if you want to go to I-4 westbound, that currently you have to stay at a signal here, take the left turns, and make that movement. That is also a key movement that it definitely needs to be more, we got to provide more capacity. So originally we thought of a concept that is the displaced left turns, where we take the left turns away from the existing location and we displace them so they go left prior at a signalized intersection here. And that helps with capacity and flow of the intersection. However, this concept we realized that it was not going to take us well into the future, and we were not going to get the most return on investment with this proposed concept and service life for the interchange. So with that in mind, we are looking at our proposed concept here that will address those concerns. So what we're proposing here is a new loop ramp from northbound 535 to westbound I-4. So instead of coming here, making the left as you currently do, we're proposing to have this loop ramp here and take I-4 west. This property where the loop ramp is being proposed is the Crossroads property, which FDOT acquires. So we were able to take advantage of that as well as to construct a water retention area that is needed for all these improvements. The other key movement is the I-4 westbound off-ramp to 535, this ramp right here. And we're proposing to realign that ramp as well as provide more capacity for the demand that is shown in this off-ramp. As part of the proposed concept, we're also planning to provide additional storage for 535 for the left and right turns at Palm Parkway. So we're going to be doing widening on 535, just north of I-4. We are still proposing the Echelon intersection at Vineland Avenue that was being proposed originally with the PD&E study. And in order to do this Echelon intersection, we have to reconfigure this loop ramp. So we will be doing that as well. So as I mentioned earlier, this project received stimulus funding with the ARPA funding, and it's limited. And due to the changes of making sure that we're going to get the most of return on investment, we're proposing to phase this project into phase 1 and phase 2 to stay within that budget. So phase 1 will consist of basically everything to the top or the north of I-4. So it will include those critical movements that I just talked about, the northbound 535 to westbound I-4 loop ramp, as well as the off-ramp from westbound I-4 to 535. We will also be doing those additional ramp storage to Palm Parkway, the left and right turn lanes along 535. We will be providing additional storage and widening for those ramps. And then as part of this project, we will also be doing major utility relocation. So you can barely see this green line that runs, from the top of the page up. And that's Florida Gas Transmission. Is a major gas line that runs at this interchange, and we are going to be able to do advanced utility relocation with this project. So the benefits of this project include we are going to continue doing our improvements along the westbound direction. So we're also doing this orange, you can barely see the orange line, but it's there. That is the continuation of the westbound express lane. We're going to be addressing the immediate concerns that we have with the spillback on mainline I-4, with the loop ramp and the realignment of that 535 off-ramp. The work on 535 and the ramp movements that we're proposing will be the ultimate configuration on that area of the interchange, so no throwaway. By removing the left turns here, the ones that currently you have to take to go to westbound I-4, this will help us facilitate phase 2 of the interchange in terms of maintenance of traffic. Another benefit is the rail. So I'm pretty sure this is in everybody's mind, but by facing this interchange, we're staying in this area only, and there's still talks about where the rail is going to go along I-4. In the median on one side, where is it going to go? So this is also going to give us the ability to, in a way, delay and give that time for those conversations and for the decision, whenever it's made, where the rail is going to go. As I mentioned, we're going to do major utility relocation, and we can build this interchange, or phase 1 of the interchange, with the available budget that we have. This is the second project that's part of that one contract, 449771-1, and it goes with the 535 interchange, and is that last portion of the westbound express lane extension that is going to be built as part of this contract. And we will not open that single westbound express lane to traffic until all of the segments are built. Some of the key dates of this procurement, so as Haddon mentioned, we're in the active procurement, active advertisement and procurement phase. A key date is the middle one on the screen, the federal authorization and final RFP. We currently have it for October of this year, and it's tied to the TIP amendment. So in order for us to move forward to the final RFP, we have to get the TIP amended to move forward. And then the letting or bid opening is in May of next year. Okay, with that, I'm gonna pass it to Haddam, and then we'll take questions at the end, if that's okay.
Okay, thank you, Catalina. So Catalina covered two project numbers. The other project numbers, I will go over them. This one is, again, it's another piece of that single lane express lane in the westbound direction. Will be built part of this project number. The reason, one thing I want to point out, the reason the limits overlap with the other ones is this project, based on the current schedules, we anticipate the construction will finish last out of all projects. As a result, this project will go ahead and put the final friction course with the striping and the tubular markers for the entire length of that single lane express lane. So that's why you see the limits overlapping with the other pieces of the express lane. As far as the typical section, it's the same exact one that you guys saw in the previous slide. The final project number we have is the I-4 at Sand Lake Road Interchange Improvement Project. The project is improving the interchange. We're doing also significant improvements on the local network. If you're familiar with this area, if you're driving from the downtown direction, you take the Sand Lake Road exit today, and you're trying to make a left turn on the Turkey Lake Road, you'll see there's a lot of congestion and weaving issues. This is the Whole Foods market, if you're familiar with that. A lot of congestion and weaving issues here. So what this concept does, when you exit I-4, you continue on this bridge, and then you access Turkey Lake Road from this location at a signal. We're eliminating that left turn from Turkey Lake, from Sand Lake Road to Turkey Lake. If you're coming from the I-Drive direction, driving down Sand Lake Road, trying to get to Turkey Lake, you just take this loop ramp, and then you access Turkey Lake from the same signal. So significant improvements to the local network we're bringing with this project, along with pedestrian facilities and bike lanes. So that's something we always point out. The last thing I want to say is this project was a fiscal year 22 project, and it just rolled forward to 23. So this was in last year's TIP, but it just rolled forward to fiscal year 23. The scope really hasn't changed. That's all we have for today. Any questions for myself or Catalina?
Yes, we do. Thank you both for the presentation, and we're going to open it up. I know Commissioner Wilson has already indicated she has some questions, and please let me know so I don't miss anyone. Okay. Commissioner Wilson.
Hi, my name is Nicole Wilson. I'm the Orange County Commissioner for District 1, which is this entire mess. I actually found out about the fountains from our friends at Reedy Creek. I never heard anything from you all. I wanted to find out because I hear from small businesses, I hear from employees and commuters, I hear from our residents, especially the ones in Dr. Phillips near the Lake Buena Vista area. They want to know what's happening. Have you all met with anyone? Can you meet with me so we can meet with them? Because this is being done to them, not with them or for them.
Yeah, we definitely can meet with you and them. We will be planning on having public meetings for the 535 interchange. That's the one that's going to construction. We did have public meetings for the Sound Lake Road and Darrell Carter projects before they went to construction.
So the picture that had the Palm Parkway at the very top there, that is the one that I hear the most from people about. You're literally right by the Lake Buena Vista community right there. Yes. And once again, I found out about the condemnation of the plaza there through other people, not from you all. So it would be really, really helpful. We get the calls. I get the calls from people literally on the road. I get the calls from the sheriff's department, believe it or not, because oftentimes if it's not on I-4, it's local. So we really, really, really need that communication. This is really affecting a lot of people's lives, and every one of these is District 1. So I'm glad I'm making contact with you today. I'm really, it's fortuitous that I'm the alternate today. But please, 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 if we could get together and make sure we're talking to the people out there, so this isn't just, a light switch for them.
Absolutely. Well, I think we have your aid contact info so we could reach out to set up a meeting. And we are planning on doing a public meeting for this project. This is the one that we haven't done a public meeting where we are on our schedule, but yes, it is part of our schedule to do a public meeting.
Thank you. All the above. It's so that Palm Parkway right there, well, for starters, when the plaza started going, they started closing, people kept calling in, what is going on, what is going on, what is going on? Once again, I heard from my colleagues at Reedy Creek, oh, they're utilizing that for retention, for water retention. But we had, what's going on? What's going on? Barrels go up, people are moving around, that we have no information. So,
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Delary, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I love this concept. I've traveled in this area for years, if not decades, for work. Even though I live in Seminole. It's the truth, you know that. I think your concept with the loop ramp road is a phenomenal one. Just two quick questions. I'm just curious. When you said that it will increase the capacity for future years, what is the design year for this that's going to push it out to? And what's that cost savings that you're going to be seeing, or we're going to be seeing?
It's a 20-year design live,
Okay.
Which is what we normally do in all of our transportation projects. Cost savings, I'm sorry, can you repeat that part?
What's the cost, additional cost and the savings of that? Because otherwise, if you would have done that, the left, it would have been a throwaway project. This is actually providing additional capacity for future years. What's that savings that you're going to be?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
I have to look at that. But yeah, we were looking at revalidating the traffic, and the displaced left turn would have been, like you said, an interim concept, and we wanted to just make sure that it was going to be.
Because a lot of
for
these
the 20
projects,
years.
people need to realize by going bigger for future years, you're actually saving money.
Yeah.
And it costs more upfront, but you're saving money because you're not having to redo it. And you're also saving money because you're doing it in today's dollars, not future year dollars. So it'd be nice to know what those, if it's possible, it'd be nice to know what those savings are.
We'll get that number for you.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Any other questions or
Commissioner-
comments? Commissioner Gomez Cordero and then Mayor Demings.
Okay. Hi, Catalina. I just wanted to ask you, did you mention anything about the train rail and so with this project?
Which one?
In this project, did you mention anything about the train rail and all of that, about the
Yes,
bright line and so?
What I said about the rail on this project is that right now there is conversations about where the rail is gonna go along I-4 in this area. Is it in the median? Is it on the east side? I don't know. I don't know. But what this facing allows us to do is to delay any, immediate construction in this interchange along I-4 for when that decision is made, we can accommodate it. And I also wanted to mention that, DOT, we've been coordinated with Brightline and other stakeholders that are part of the Sunshine Corridor. They are fully aware of the projects that are coming, and we have conversations with them. But that is truly all I know at my level. There's probably other conversations that I am not privy to, but we are coordinating with those key stakeholders.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, if I could just follow up with that for a second. When we talk about the future years, and I think you're spot on, we have to keep our options open because we don't know what the real aspect of it's going to be. I support it, but, to the extent that you need to put it into the ground and actually do construction, we don't know yet what that is. So the idea that you're actually keeping our options open, you all should be commended. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Demings.
Two questions. One, I noted when some of the projects are going to begin, but what's the projected end date for the projects?
It's
About 3 years.
Yeah, I would say, Mayor, 3 years, 3 to 4 years. I don't have the exact number, but yeah, around that time.
4 years? Is that what I'm hearing for
For
all
Sand
those
Lake Road.
projects to be done?
For Sand Lake Road interchange, I would say 3 to 4 years. For the 535, since it's half an interchange, I would say probably quicker than that. So, yeah, about like 3 years.
10 years?
No,
3.
3.
3
2 to
years,
3,
okay.
probably,
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
4 years. All right, so I'm gonna hold you to that. All right. Okay, and the second question is, what's the total cost of these projects?
So I think the numbers are in the TIP letter. I don't have it with me, but they are listed in there for both the Sand Lake Road interchange and the 535. So they should be in the letter.
I didn't see it, but, okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't say the total cost.
While Mayor's looking at the cost, were there any other questions? Yes, Mayor.
See that?
Can you turn your mic on?
The Darrell Carter interchange, when is that going to be completed?
Yeah, yeah, I would say so. So that one, it's awarded, so we're looking at construction start end of this year. I would say 3 years for construction.
Okay, 3 years to complete it.
It's a new interchange.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, yes, Councilmember.
While I think it's horrible we have to take down that shopping plaza to do a stormwater pond, I think it's great that we're using part of it for a ramp. Was it looked into to have the westbound exit off at Hotel Plaza? Because I feel like a lot of the traffic's heading towards all the Disney resorts, and they could just go straight through one light instead of getting off, turning right at a light, turning left at a light, kind of the same situation we created at Turkey Lake that we're now having to spend a bunch of money to fix. Was it looked into to try to direct traffic further away from that interchange?
That was one of the options that we looked early, way when we were doing the PD&E study. But I believe with the 536 reconfiguration and the off-ramp to the attractions area, it just didn't make any sense to make that a plus intersection.
But with
So-
it at 536, that's all the eastbound traffic? Did that affect, but this is the westbound traffic?
No,
heading
even the
towards-
westbound traffic, because now that's an access towards the parking garage in the attractions area.
By the
So
parking
there's less demand at 535, and with the shopping plaza gone too, there is still somewhat less. It made more sense to keep it this way than plus it up with the Hotel Plaza Boulevard.
Okay.
And
I just wanted to
I
make
could
sure.
get you more information on that one, but we did look at that a while ago.
Well, and
So-
was that with the new configuration of that loop coming across the
Yeah,
pond?
there was an option that we had like that,
Okay.
yeah.
Fantastic. Are there no more questions or comments? I want to just check online with our Commissioner Sheehan and Commissioner Constantine.
I'm good, Commissioner, thank you.
Okay. All righty.
I'm fine.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the amendment to the FY 2022-23 and the FY 2026-2027 TIP presented here today.
Do we have a second? This is the third action item that we have to vote on?
You need a second?
Yeah.
More.
Okay, so we have a second by Commissioner Moore. And Ms. Smith, this is a roll call vote?
Bates? Aye. Constantine?
Yes.
Delari?
Yes.
Demme?
Aye.
Sheehan? Castano?
Aye.
Gomez Cordero?
Aye.
Good? Green? Janer?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Nelson?
Yes.
Ortiz? Wilson?
Aye.
Trace?
Aye.
Uribe? Woodruff? Motion carries unanimously.
Fantastic. Okay, and now we're going to move on to informational items.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the informational items as submitted today.
Okay.
Second, Gomez.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Delari, a second by Commissioner Gomez Cordero. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. We're going to move on to other business and presentations. At this time, we're going to have the Sunrail Transition Report by Ms. Michelle Kendall. Ms. Kendall, you are recognized. It's The Price is Right. Wait.
Is it on now? All right. So we're going to go over a couple of key items related to where we're at. Just very briefly, and I know many of you are very familiar with Sunrail, but I did want to touch on this just to give a little bit of context. This has been in the planning and implementation stages for many, many years now. The interlocal agreements were signed back in 2007. This is the foundation for a lot of the way that Sunrail operates right now. So those were key. It was approved by the governor in 2011. Under that, FDOT was responsible for the design, the permitting, and the construction of the system. They were also to pay for the cost of the rail system for 7 years, beginning in 2014 when it opened. Obviously, 7 years from 2014 is 2021. We're in 2022 right now. And that has been delayed because Phase 2 North is under construction. So the transition is not going to occur until Phase 2 North is completed. And through that, the approval in 2011, the Central Florida Commuter Rail Commission, which you're all familiar with, was created. As of right now, we're tentatively looking at a transition date from FDOT to the local funding partners of June 2024. However, that date is very preliminary. We are looking probably more at 2025, just based on how the schedule of the Phase 2 project is going. And there's many things to accomplish with this project before then. Brief update on where we're at with the status. Many of you have seen this before. We finished the initial transition analysis report, which is the existing conditions laying the foundation. We're now working on the transition plan. I'm going to touch on a couple of the areas that we looked at related to Sunrail. We looked at the operational analysis. Our rail engineers went out into the field. They looked at the tracks. They looked at the stations, everything related to the infrastructure. And the great news was that Sunrail is in a state of good repair. FDOT has done a great job of taking care of it over the years that it's been open, so that should be good news for the local funding partners. They'll be inheriting a system that is in good shape. FRA is confident in how it's been running. There's been no violations or any systemic issues, which is fantastic news. We do recommend that it's going to be at least 2 years before this transition does occur, so we would suggest going out and taking a look at how the operations of the system are currently running, just to make sure everything is okay. Obviously, there's no anticipation that there would be any problems. FDOT has done such a great job over the last 7-8 years. We anticipate the same. But you want to just look at your asset before it's transitioning to you. The governance structure is one of the other items that we looked at, and this one is particularly timely. You may be familiar with the fact that next week at the CFCRC board meeting, they will be voting on the option for governance, what is going to be the entity that runs Sunrail. There was 3 options that we looked at. Option 1 was creating a brand new agency, having everything in-house. This would be a staff of roughly 200 people, so they would be responsible for the administration, the management, and also the actual operations of the trains themselves. Option 2 is similar to how FDOT runs it right now. They have several in-house staff for the administration, the management, and then other operations are contracted out. And then option 3 would be an existing agency that would handle the administration and management. We looked at 3 different entities for that. We looked at Lynx, we looked at CFX, and we looked at Brightline. We did an in-depth analysis of each of those 3 options, and Lynx rose to the top as the one that was the most beneficial for the region. And then this is just a little bit more detail. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. I know many of you have seen this presentation many times before, but I'd be happy to answer any questions. Option 1, as we talked about, roughly 200 staff, brand new agency, it's most expensive, high level of risk because everything is internal, and FRA would have to get used to a brand new entity being in place. Option 3 is kind of that midpoint, second most expensive, roughly 50 employees, would have to start from scratch as well. FRA, it would be anticipated that those contractors would continue, so that would give FRA some level of confidence, which would be a positive. And then option 3 is the existing agency. It's the least expensive of all of the options because you do have an agency in place that already has almost all of the positions that they would need, short of maybe 9 people. The risk is shed from Lynx to the contractors, and FRA, this would likely give FRA confidence in how it would continue to operate. We looked at the financial analysis. This obviously is critical. we looked at it in terms of 4 different cost allocations: what the insurance costs are, what the operating costs are, capital costs, and station maintenance cost. This just goes through how we got to the local operating share. You take your costs, you subtract your revenues, then you have your operating deficit. From the operating deficit, there was a formula based on the embarking and disembarkings, and then that gives you the local share. So you can see it varies based on the ridership. So Volusia is at about 9.5%, up to Orange County at about 33%. And this just goes into a little bit of detail, looking at the total numbers of embarkings and disembarkings annually, and then also at the peak and averaging those. And then that's how we got to those percentages that you just saw. The capital costs were calculated a little bit, or the cost sharing was calculated a little bit differently. This is based on track miles in the jurisdictions. So you can see this ranges in the city of Orlando at about 9%, up to 27% in both Seminole and Orange County. We looked at some of the major revenue categories, with FTA funding at $10 million being the highest contributor right now. And then this is a quick summary of each of those options. As we talked about, option 1, the entity that creates everything, about 200 new employees. Option 2, middle ground, similar to how FDOT runs it now. And then option 3 would be the links option. And so those costs range from roughly $65 million, $63 million, and $54 million for each of those options. And then this breaks it down into a little more detail. So of the percentages, this is the estimated share for each of the local funding partners. In terms of next steps, we've been going through and doing the briefings over the summer as to where we're at with this project. We are anticipating a vote, as I mentioned, next week at the CFCRC board meeting in terms of the governance structure. Once we have the governance structure in place, that will allow us to finish the remainder of the analysis, which is a good several more months. There's a lot of things that need to be worked through before it's in a state where everyone is comfortable with how it will transition. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much for the update. I don't know if we have any questions or comments in the audience. Something that I'd asked about, and we've seen this already a couple times, is that I hope that Sunrail would make a stronger effort in collecting fees for ridership, as we move forward.
That's a really big thing, and it's something that there's been issues with the fare collection system, and FDOT has recognized that, and they have a new system that is being put in place, estimated to start in 2023. It's MoveL is the name of the system, just for familiarity's sake. So with that system, the expectation is that the ability to collect the fares will be much higher than it is now. So that is a positive moving forward, and that will be in place before the transition to the local funding partners occurs.
Commissioner DeLaury, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wasn't going to go there, but since you opened that door, the original agreement, and it has not been changed, DOT told us that we'd get 31% ridership, which I think is very unrealistic, but that's what we all committed to. We're just below 2%, so they got a long way to go.
You're absolutely right.
That's the problem. I'm right. Have a good day.
Any other I think what we're saying is no one's not heard it before, but any other questions or comments? Just checking with our 2 electeds online.
Good, Commissioner.
Okay. And I'm assuming Commissioner Constantine. Okay, thank you very much and for the information, Kendall, and appreciate you taking our comments back. And we're going to move forward with Mr. James Boyle with the Links Transit Development Plan, our TDP. Mr. Boyle, you're recognized.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is James Boyle. I'm the Director of Planning and Development for Links, and I'm pleased to be here today to talk to you and present to you our TDP. So, Madam Chair and members of the board, I'll go ahead and get started with the presentation. So, a quick outline of the presentation today. This basically follows the outline of our transit development plan. Obviously, we can't go into details on every single chapter, but this just gives you a broad overview of the elements of a transit development plan. So what is a transit development plan? And you'll hear me say TDP. So when I say TDP, that's what I'm referring to. This is basically a 10-year planning document that all transit agencies in the state of Florida are required to have. And the requirement is a statute in state law, and DOT is the entity that is responsible for enforcing that statute. And without an approved transit development plan, transit agencies would lose a lot of funding. So we have to always make sure that we're doing our transit development plans, we're following the state guidelines, and we're submitting them in a timely manner. The TDP, like I said, is a 10-year planning document. And there's really three big things that a TDP guides for a transit agency. One is the planning of our agency, policy development, and service development guidelines. So when DOT puts out calls for service development grants, we automatically would go to our transit development plan to look for projects that we could submit in coordination and consultation with our funding partners. TDP is broken up into a major update and minor annual updates. So this is our 5-year major update. So every 5 years you have to do a major update. And then after that, you do annual updates that are basically report cards on how you're doing. And that's also a time to make changes or adjustments to the transit development plan as well. And then in the process, it also allows us to examine changing demographics and trends in our service area. And I think we all know that Central Florida is growing rapidly. There's a lot of growth taking place in our area as a lot of new citizens are moving to Central Florida. So it's a great time for us to just kind of reset a little bit, see what's happening, and see what the trends are showing us. And then one of the biggest elements in a transit development plan is our public involvement. Public involvement is a key piece of what we do, and that is throughout the entire development of the plan. So this year's plan was a little different. I want to take a little bit of time just to kind of explain how we did it this year. So there are 3 county transit plans that were developed in coordination and consultation with the 3 counties and our funding partners and stakeholders. And also there was a great deal of public involvement that went into these county transit plans. So there's a plan for Osceola County, there's a plan for Orange County, and there's a plan for Seminole County. And these plans were developed over about a 2-year period, so a lot of work went into them. And what we wanted to do was we wanted to capture the work that went into those plans and use those plans to build our 10-year TDP. So we're condensing what is a 20-year plan. These are 20-year plans, and taking some of those elements and then putting them into our transit development plan. And that is really how we went through the process and developed our TDP, because we did not want to discredit any of the work that had taken place previously, and certainly not use any of the work that had been taking place previously. So that is an important thing to remember as we go through the rest of the presentation, and then you see at the end what the 10-year plan actually looks like. Another key element that came out of those county transit plans is really laying out the hierarchy of transit and transit options and how they all fit together and how they all work to create a seamless transit system. So quickly, the top part is what we refer to as mobility, and that's really moving lots of people throughout a region. So think of things like Sunrail, commuter buses, long distances, moving a lot of people. And then you kind of go down the hierarchy to higher frequency bus service, so 15-minute headways on bus routes or even 10-minute headways. And then you go down to your more local service, and then eventually you get down to the neighborhood level services like NeighborLink, so on-demand, flexible type service with smaller vehicles that can circulate through neighborhoods. And that gives people greater accessibility. So you give them accessibility at the neighborhood level, and that increases their mobility through the region. Like I stated earlier, public outreach is a really important piece of what we do. And without reaching out to our riders and to our public, a lot of what we do would be in vain. So we had a really robust public outreach program for our transit development plan. You can see on the screen in front of you, we did a lot of outreach, lots of bullet points here, but we had public workshops, we did in-person station outreach, we utilized our regional working group that we meet with on a quarterly basis. We created a technical advisory committee for this project. We also had a lot of discussions and meetings with our stakeholders and also internally at Links. And then we had a survey that our riders could access and give us feedback through a survey. Public workshops. We had a public workshop in each county, so all 3 counties had one public workshop. 2 of them were virtual, so people could call in virtually and not have to come in person. Probably the best thing we can do is go to where people are. So we did a really good outreach effort at getting out to our stations, and we did this in all 3 of the counties. You can see on the screen in front of you all of the different places where we did public outreach and went to where our riders are and to where customers are, and to hear from them in person. And you can see the little QR code there. People could use their phone to scan that code, and that would take them directly to our survey. So it was a really neat way to get people to do or take our survey. Social media is a really important thing for us to be able to get information out. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those different things that people go to in terms of social media. But we understand that not everyone's on social media, so that's why the in-person outreach is important too. So some of the results we got from our survey, and 2 of the top 3 here, more service, later service, more weekend service, those are really a lot of, we hear that a lot from our customers. People want more weekend service, they want later night service, and they want more frequency. And so one of the things, for us to always remember, especially with frequency, is frequency costs a lot of money. So when we talk about adding more frequency to a bus network, you're really looking at the costs going up pretty significantly. So just for instance, if you have a bus route that runs every 30 minutes and you bump that up to every 15 minutes for a typical bus route, normally it's about $1 million more a year in operating costs just to go from 30 to 15. So you're talking about a pretty significant increase in money, but you're also going to get a pretty good return on ridership. An example I have is our Route 38, we took it from 60-minute headways to 30-minute headways. Ridership is up at 140% previous. So you will get more riders with higher frequency. Again, this is just another survey result, and you can see the majority of the people asked for, or they said they would use higher frequency bus service. So it just kind of validates sort of what we know in the industry. Another major element of a TDP is developing your goals and your objectives, and this is a big part of our transit development plan. So we kept it pretty simple. We had 4 major goals that we wanted to pay attention to, and you can think of it as advance, enhance, promote, and deliver. We want to advance a reliable, a safe, equitable, and dynamic performance-driven transit system. We also want to make sure that we're enhancing our customer experience and communications with our customers and with the public in general. And we want to be sure that we're promoting economic competitiveness, sustainability, and improving the quality of life for all citizens of Central Florida. And then we want to make sure that we're delivering that seamless transit network that we propose in the TDP. Another element of a TDP is a peer analysis. And so every transit agency has to do a peer analysis where you benchmark yourselves against peers. We went through a selection process of sort of identifying some of those peers that we think we would compare to. So the next 2 slides are just some snapshots of some of the metrics that we would compare ourselves to. And on this one in particular, you can see average trip length. We have a very big service area. So we have a lot of people that go from one county to the other, and that's a long trip length. So we're a little bit higher than our mean on average trip length, which is not a bad thing. It just means we have a pretty big service area. Fixed route investments, cost effectiveness is another thing that we can look at. And for instance here, the operating expenses per passenger trip, we're very low. So we fall below the mean, which means we're pretty efficient. Like we're running a pretty good operation with our passengers and the expenses per passenger trip. So these are just some examples of some of the benchmarks that we look at. So how's all this pulled together and what does the 10-year plan look like? So the map's in front of you on this screen. I know it's a little hard to see in all the detail, but I'll do my best to explain. The map to my left is our current existing system. The map to the right, where you see the bolder colors, the darker colors, those are all the new investments that we would make in the 10-year horizon. So we're talking about corridors with higher frequency service. We're talking about corridors with major capital investments. So think bus rapid transit elements, BRT, dedicated guideways, major stations, lots of improvements. So the 10-year plan takes into account a lot of those capital improvements for those major corridors. And also you can see some expansion of the neighbor link zones would be included in our 10-year plan. But again, the frequency, the spans of service are also really important, and that is captured, some of that is captured in the 10-year plan as well. So there's a lot of new service that is highlighted in the 10-year plan, and we did do some ridership forecasting, and so, we project or forecast that with these improvements within the 10 years, we could see ridership increase greater than 35%, which is pretty good. But again, it's just a forecast and nothing is certain, but definitely moves us in the right direction. So where we are in our schedule, we presented to the Links board to ask for approval to transmit the document to DOT. So the document is currently with DOT. DOT is reviewing our document, and I'm sure they'll probably have comments or questions, and so we'll respond back to those. And the drop dead deadline to have our TDP approved is December 31st. So we're shooting for that December 31st goal to make sure we get it all done. And with that, I would be glad to take questions.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Ortiz has a question, and then Commissioner Demings and Mayor Demings and Commissioner Delary. Commissioner Ortiz.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. This morning, there was a great article in the Orlando Sentinel about you guys, with great comments from Mayor Demings and Commissioner Constantine. So with that being said, I noticed you were talking about the plan for the next 10 years, but I didn't see that Sunrail was part of that, and that's what they were talking about. In the next couple of years, you guys may take over. It's not, I understand the Links will be taking over Sunrail. So that's a plan. So is that, I know it's not edged in stone yet. However, it seems like it may be. And with that, are we going to wait until 2024 to include that in our plan, or are we do something tentative right now? Or?
So I will say that in the transit plans, in the Orange County Transit Plan, there are projects for Sunrail. However, it was outside of our 10-year window for the transit development plan. And so depending on what happens with Sunrail, we will have the opportunity, obviously, to go back and update and make changes to our plan, and we would do that during our annual update process. And then when we did our next major update, it would be basically a whole new document, and we would certainly take that into consideration as well and include those in our plan.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mayor Demings?
All right, quick question. Can you ensure that everybody gets a copy of your presentation? One. Two, I would not miss this opportunity to talk a little bit about the prospects of our 1% sales tax that will be on the ballot in November of this year. We got our approval from OPAGA, the Office of Program Policy and Government Accountability, from the state to move forward with our referendum. And on Friday, we should be going live with a dashboard in Orange County where you will be able to go to our website and look at the nearly 1,200 pages of backup documents with the specific projects that have been tentatively identified that will be paid for over the 20-year term of the sales tax. And you could, for example, put in, if you want to know what's going on right around your address, if you live in Orange County, you could put in a particular address, and it will show all of the projects, and you have the ability to focus anywhere from less than a mile up to a 15-mile radius to see every project. And it kind of dovetails with what he's proposing here with Links, because we do contemplate that we will likely more than double within Orange County the number of Links routes that will give us the increased frequency, the accessibility, the affordability, et cetera, through the sales tax initiative. And so we're running a political campaign. The county cannot use the taxpayer dollars for advocacy to advocate in a political campaign. So the political campaign moving Orange County forward is a separate process, and Mayor Dyer and I co-chair the political campaign, and it's going well. We're raising dollars to communicate to the electorate between now and the November the 8th election day. And today, all indications are that we have a great probability that the sales tax will pass. There have been numerous polls done within the last 8 weeks, and all of them that I saw indicated that it will pass. Passage for us is 50% plus one person to get it across, and most of the polling shows it in the high 50s, 60s percentile. So we have a grassroots campaign that consists of a multilingual, multicultural business versus labor. For the first time, we have labor that has endorsed this campaign. The AFL-CIO endorsed the campaign. Historically, when we go back to 2003, the last time we tried it in Orange County, it failed, but it was largely pushed and advocated for by the business community. But this time, not only has many of the chambers and business entities endorsed this, but so did the AFL-CIO and all of its umbrella unions, the carpenters, the painters, the plumbers, the iron workers, classroom teachers, service workers, et cetera. And you may have seen a presser that we did at the airport last week, and there were persons from the service industry who are daily riders, who we don't script them, but they talked about how this improvement in the link service will benefit them directly and save them money in the long term in terms of their transit when their sole form of transit is public transit. They don't own automobiles, et cetera, for various reasons. So I am highly encouraged with it. So I just wanted to seize this opportunity. I've talked about this publicly well over 350 times. So today I'm going to put another notch there in it. So thank you very much for teeing that up for me.
That's perfectly okay, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I was going to go to Commissioner Delory and, okay, and,
Another subject, I'd rather ask him a question, but
I'm going to stay on the subject. No, I have a question.
go ahead, Mr. Good, for Mayor Demmings.
how much money do you need still to raise?
As much as possible, but we're around $1 million at this point of commitments. The goal was to raise $1.5 million to $2 million. The good news is the opposition is minimal. They're not really raising money, but it's more about telling the story, the narrative of the story, where every person that we're asking to vote for it sees themselves benefiting, and that takes a grassroots campaign of persons to be the surrogates to sell it, rather than just me selling it. I want people in the community selling it, and that's kind of what we have harnessed at this point.
I can't talk to him a lot of times, so that was a good opportunity. So I'm fully on board to help you.
All right, Mayor
I have a check this
Demmings.
afternoon.
Mayor Demmings is personally manifesting the penny tax increase, okay. All right, Commissioner Delory, back on the links.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question. First of all, I fully support transportation links, what Orange County is doing. I think it's great. But I'm concerned about your 10-year plan. What will it cost other counties moving forward? Because I've seen the increase in cost of links in Seminole County, and it's getting to be very expensive for us. And I want to make sure that we can afford it because we pay as we go.
I understand.
And I've not heard anything from links moving forward that they're going to be asking for additional funding. So I'm curious what you're projecting over the next 10 years for us that we may not be aware of.
Well, first thing I'll tell you is we would not implement anything without meeting with the county first and going through the projects and talking about the funding. So the plan it lays out a guide, a roadmap too. Like if we wanted to add more service, these are the services that we could talk about adding. So there's no onus on the county at this point to actually fund any of the new services. We would take that step by step with Seminole County. And obviously, any new routes or service we would add, we would do that on a county basis with our funding partner.
I guess the question I have is with your 10-year plan, it's a comprehensive plan for the region.
Sure.
What would that increased cost be that you're projecting?
Oh, okay, well, that's a good question. And so it's a lot of money. I'm not going to lie about that, right? It's a couple of $1 billion. Capital projects are very expensive. And even on the operating side, if we were to add all of that service, we're looking at $200-300 million a year in operating costs. So it very quickly adds up to the billions. So that's why things like Orange County, the tax measure is very important. With that extra funding, those new services can be implemented. But like with Seminole, we would obviously not just implement those things. We would work with the county. We would look for funding. We would look for state funding. We could go after service development grants, opportunities from the federal government possibly to help fund new services as well. So it is a lot of money. That's just the way it is.
Yes.
So there's no dollar figure that you have projected out for 10 years?
Well, so on the operating side, it's about $2 billion. And then on the capital side, it's about $3 billion.
3 million or 3
Billion.
billion? Okay, billion.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I got the M with a B.
It's a B. It's a lot of money.
Okay.
Commissioner Jane, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just to piggyback off of Commissioner Dolores, I'm on the Links board, so I've heard this all before, twice. This is time number 3.
I know.
However, because you mentioned costs, Commissioner Dolari, I had a conversation just yesterday with somebody at Links mentioning the same thing. We don't at Osceola County have a transportation tax. And so therefore, increased costs in the future is concerning. I'm not sure if Osceola County could afford a lot of increases, which I would love to see more frequent service. We just added Sunday service a couple years ago to a lot of our lines that didn't have them. So I do know that Lynx's procedure is to work with their county governments before they roll anything out and make sure that A, we want it, and B, we could afford it before they move forward. So I just wanted to give that level of comfort to Commissioner Jalari from somebody on this side of the table, because that's just not the way Lynx operates. They know they have to coordinate with those local funding partners.
Thank you. Commissioner Wilson, you're recognized.
Thank you so much. So just really quick, I would be curious to kind of toss back when we look at these costs, what the cost analysis is when you look at moving people around on a bus versus the never-ending chase for capacity on roadways where land continues to be the most premium. Could we go back really quickly to the map?
Sure.
That shows the 10-year plan?
There we go.
So there's, if you look at the southwest corner of Orange County and the kind of 192 corridor and around, once again, Reedy Creek and the other sort of attractions, there's workforce housing coming.
Sure.
And this came up when we actually were talking about the transportation tax and may have in some part been part of my decision. But there's still, even on this 10-year plan, there seems to be, there's nothing out there at all. And I just am concerned with that workforce housing in looking at the volumes of people that go from that area into our largest employers. What is the thought process on contemplating into the future for them?
Well, certainly we always take into consideration, new developments, new housing, right? All of those things are
60,000 new people.
a part of that. And so you got to remember, this is just for the 10 years, but there is the 20-year horizon of the Orange County plan. And with the possibility of a new tax measure, a lot of those projects would be pushed up a lot quicker.
Okay,
So
I was going
this
to say,
kind
they're
of-
already there. Like, so the
Yeah.
new census showed there was 60,000 new in that,
Sure.
in that area. I mean, I lost more in my district than anybody in redistricting, so they're there. And every week there's more entitlements to go through. So a 20-year is not, and especially knowing that some of there's public-private partnerships for that workforce housing. And I'm just concerned about how we're going to get those people around.
Well, I certainly appreciate you bringing that up and letting me hear your concern. And obviously, as we work through our plan, things can change and we can make adjustments and changes. Again, this is just sort of a roadmap or a guide to how we want, the future to go. So case by case specifics, if there's a certain corridor that we should pay more attention to. Obviously, as we go through and do our annual updates and our next major updates, we will certainly take all that in consideration. But if it's something immediate, then we can definitely.
No, I mean, and we went around in circles leading up to the vote for the transportation sales tax. I was just hopeful that the last maps that I got during that process would be the ones that we would see today, because that seemed like that we were moving into like maybe acknowledging that there was going to be some need in that western area, especially to our larger employers. But I don't. This isn't reflected, so we can talk offline.
Definitely, I would be glad to talk to you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Online, I wanted to check in with our electeds. Any questions or comments?
Everything's good.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. And I know a lot will change for you if we do have that penny tax measure, because we just went from 55 million to who knows how much. So
Exactly.
thank you for
There
what
will be
you're
a lot of
doing.
work to do.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We are going to move forward to public comment in the general nature. Do we have any speaker cards, Ms. Smith?
I have not received any.
Okay, and anything online either?
There are no hands raised online at this time, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I know that Mayor Demings has given us an update on the transportation initiative. Is there any other board member comment at this point? Commissioner Ortiz? And
I hate to bring this back because Ms. Kendall already gave her report, but I also read this morning that there was a strike going on around the nation. Is that affecting us at all with this on-ramp?
Ms. Kendall, is she still here?
Yes. Railroad workers nationwide. So we were just wondering, there was an article about that also in the morning newspaper, about that, how that may affect Sunrail. Is that affecting us at all? Since I'm taking advantage that you're here.
Well, good question. Interesting one. Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Mike Heffinger has been in constant communication with us, and he would probably be able to speak best. I just spoke with him yesterday, and as of yesterday, I hadn't heard that there was any issues with the current delivery of the system.
Ms. Bobo actually has a comment on this, so.
Yes, I can speak to that. I'm also wearing the public information hat right now for District 5. It is on our radar. There is a potential, if the strike continues, that it could affect Sunrail service, but we're watching it. We're getting plans in place if that does occur.
Okay, and we have, of course, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I apologize for being late. I did want to bring up a couple of comments about some work FDOT is planning in Sanford. They're doing 2 safety and improvement projects on State Road 46, both the east side and the west side. They've been having the public meetings. I was pleased to find out on the east side, they're going to move up the turning on of the traffic light at Mellonville Avenue, which is a big concern for the people in that area. But on the west side, we have some concerns about the design there. There are several median cuts that will be closed. One of them, I think, is at North White Cedar, which is an entrance to a major housing development, Thornbrook, where they will be putting in a pedestrian crossing. And so the traffic, everyone coming in and out will have to make a turn and then make a U-turn. And there are a couple other median cuts that we're concerned about. We already have, as things are developing further west, the traffic coming in from Lake County, we have backups caused by auto train. And so we've got some concerns about capacity and what those changes are going to make. And we brought these up to staff when they did the presentations. Our staff has been talking, but I wanted to bring that up here, that there are some concerns about what's happening there. Okay?
Thank you, Mayor, appreciate that. And any other questions or comments? Fantastic. Our next board meeting will take place on November 9th, 2022, and we are officially adjourned. Thank you, everyone.